Psalms 37, verse 23 says, "The steps of a man are ordered by Yahweh, and he delights in his way." The question is, are you walking in the way of Yahweh? Are you fighting the right kind of battle? Are you the kind of man that he is looking for, or the kind of woman, the kind of person that he's looking for? Mike, you're the kind of guy I've been looking for this morning, trying to figure out how to get a recording done.
Right.
Just got home from being out of town. How is Gulliver's Travels treating you these days?
Well, the good news is I made it through the airport. I made it through Atlanta, Denver. We were out in Colorado spending some grandson time, which was really a lot of fun. But it was challenging, to say the least. Colorado's a different place than it used to be, and so I got kind of a wake up call of it was mask are mandatory, and just the attitude, the overall attitude of people that you would come in contact with is much different than it is here in Western North Carolina. So, but hey, got some great time with the grandkids. That's what matters. And we made it back in. Got a little jet lag going on right now, but not terrible. So we'll work through it. Were you with your mom this weekend?
No. I'll be heading home on Wednesday and spending a few days there.
Okay, as well as your mom's birthday. So
yeah. Mom is a little older, but she refuses to be old.
Yeah, I've only spent a few short moments with her, but I got that impression. It's one thing to grow old; it's quite another to grow old.
Yeah, she's Dad's been gone. This spring will be 2 years, and she's still a bit grieving over that.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to keep her otherwise focused and occupied. And I was able to join in for a few minutes by Zoom the other night as my siblings had gathered in to eat cake with her and that kind of thing. But she was smiling big, and she's one of those that refuses to.
Left you a piece of cake somewhere.
It was gone. It was gone. But she's promised me a chocolate pie when I get in, so I'm good to go.
Okay, that's that makes it all worthwhile. All right. So,
well, Mike, this verse hit me the other day, and I actually used it last Shabbat in my teaching. This is a verse that I learned as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
My dad encouraged me along.
The righteous men are ordered by the Lord, and he takes delight in them. Yes,
yeah.
Got it.
What interested me as I did a little research on this is the word for the steps of a man are not Adam. It's not Ish. It's a word that I've not been familiar with before. It's Gever.
Okay, and the word is not Zadekim or Zadik. Okay, because if we were to look at it in King James, the steps of a righteous man, I would assume that. So you were kind of assuming that the word was Ish. For man, I would be assuming that the word was Zadik, but neither one of those are right.
And if you look at the King James, the righteous man, if I'm not mistaken, is in italics, which means it wasn't there in the original language. So, if you look at the Hebrew here, just verifying, Sadiq is not in the text.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, if we were to back up just a little bit, the word to begin with that is translated the steps is more the word there is the goings. Okay, so the moving forward of the Gavar. So he takes delight. We can start out with it like this: that he takes delight in a certain type of person that we're going to get to in just a moment, that is always looking forward, or not just looking forward, but is always moving forward.
Okay. So what I found interesting here, Mike, is that Gever is, and it may be Gever instead of Gever. My Hebrew is, I'm very dependent on sources.
Well, Southern would be Gaver.
Gaver. Yeah, one of our Gavers.
One of them Gavers. We're going to Gaver hunt.
It references a particular kind of man. Man, don't mess me up. I've already been down that trail one time today.
You've been on Gaver hunting? It's a new reality show, Gaver hunting. Trying to find a righteous man in the midst of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's called Gaver hunting.
Gaver hunting. Mike, you've been in Colorado too long, man. That mask has kind of fermented your brain or something.
I'm definitely, it's not just sleep deprivation, it's oxygen.
The word references a man who is valiant, who is a warrior, who is willing to fight. So the basic understanding I'm getting from it is that the goings of a man that is willing to fight and defend, I would insert what he has been entrusted with. Yah will direct his steps. And the word direct there is to establish and to firmly stabilize his steps.
In fact, the first time that the word is used is in, I'm running through real fast over here. The first word, this time that word ordered, established is used in scripture is in Genesis 41:32. And to the dream was doubled into Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it past. So the man, the idea here, the picture is the man that is moving forward, this type of man that we're going to discuss here, again, get right to it, that man, his steps, his goings are established by the Almighty himself. It's not a happenstance kind of walk that he's on.
So if you're winging it, if you are one that says, "Que sera, sera," whatever will be, it is what it is. Let's just kind of wake up and see what the day holds and do the best that we can. It's not that Yah can't use you. It's not that Yah doesn't love you. It's not that Yah is upset at you. But if you're willing to draw a line in the sand for the sake of righteousness, if you're willing to determine what things belong to the kingdom and its appearance, if you're willing to take a stand and fight for them, and when I say fight, I'm not talking about punching somebody. We're not talking about getting your AR out. We're talking about fighting in the spirit, standing up and not taking a step backwards when somebody opposes you with a different opinion. Stand your ground. Yah will order your steps. He will firmly establish your steps. He will secure you in your steps and delight in the way that you walk. Something I learned from you years ago was a phrase that you had used: "I'm not willing to die on that hill."
Mm-hmm.
Not every battle is a battle worth fighting, or it may be, this is a battle worth fighting, but not yet. I need the high ground here, and we need to wait till a more opportune moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been looked at in the past as being passive, but that's not my nature. I'm not being passive. I'm waiting for a better moment. So Laura's oftentimes looked at me, why didn't you say anything? I'm going to say something, but to make my stand at that given moment would not been to my advantage. I needed to wait until there's a different situation, and then I will take care of this. But as it sits right now, I will cause more of a stink than a help.
Well, I think what you're describing is the essence of this word gavar. It is a gimel, a bait, and a resh. The gimel, if you look at the letter, it actually is a picture of a man walking, and so that's this whole idea is coming in there. But the bait is the tin. It's the first letter of the Aleph Beit, the first letter of Bereshit, Genesis, and then we see the Resh, which is the head. So it is the picture that is portrayed right here is a man who is fighting or is walking, is willing to stand up for the head of the house. So this is a man, as you're describing right there, that is fighting for the right thing. This concept of that I've heard. Well, we need God on our side. That's one of the that's one of the stupidest things that a person can come up with.
Tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah, I know. The last thing that I need is him on my side, okay? Because I've been known just occasionally to be on the wrong side.
Well,
so I'm not inviting him to my side. I need to be invited to his side.
Yeah.
So the word here of the steps, the goings of this gavar is a man who is fighting for the head of the house. We have to, and I think this is so appropriate in our day, in the times that we're living, fighting for the right thing, and fighting for righteousness. The word there in the Gospels, that the kingdom of heaven suffers violence and the violent take it by force. That's not talking about the current Antifa and BLM and all that. There is a righteous violence and there is an unrighteous violence.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that our violence is being brought forth from righteousness. And this is the idea of the person that is standing. And I think the rest of the verse is just as appropriate, Barry, because it goes back to that concept of the gimel, of a man that is standing. It says, he may stumble, but he won't fall headlong, for Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh holds him by the hand. So this is like that we are walking alongside of him. It's the concept of Abraham was called to walk with Hashem. He was called to walk alongside, and at all times he is holding us to where if you're walking down the street and you're holding your wife's hand and she may stumble over something, well, what do? You grab hold and you pull up so that the person will not fall headlong onto the sidewalk. Right. And so the stumble is something that, because we're human, we're going to stumble, but he's going to hold us and bring us back up and make us to continue that move forward.
I'm reminded of this verse in the first chapter of Yehoshua or Joshua. Yah says in verse 6 and 7, be strong and courageous, for you are to let this people inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, to guard to do all of the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it right or left, so that you act wisely wherever you go. And then he says in verse 9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, nor be discouraged, for Yahweh your Elohim is with you wherever you go. It is a command to be strong and courageous.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do, Mike, when that's not your nature? When you have been raised for whatever environmental circumstance or parenting that you received to be more laid back, even timid or reluctant to move, passive. Maybe you're someone's pictured as being weak, or you think of yourself as being weak. Uh,
I mean, I'm not a competitive person by nature. I was not, as many people. I wasn't raised with sports. Nothing like that interested me. I was raised with hunting and fishing. There's, I guess there is some competition there, but it was normally with a tree rat or a deer or something like that. Back in the days that we had squirrels, and there is competition between you and the fish. But as far as competing between two people, that never has been an interest to me. When you made me start playing golf, one of the things I enjoy about golf is I'm not as much competing with another person as I'm competing with myself.
yeah,
We need to learn to compete with ourselves, not with another person. I'm not here to compete with the Father's calling on Barry Phillips.
right.
I'm here to compete with the calling that he has on Mike Clayton. Now let's go with this a little bit farther, Barry, because there's a very interesting verse here. In verse 25, it says, I have been young and now I'm old, yet have never seen the righteous abandoned or forsaken and his descendants begging for bread. That word has been used many times for things that I think are out of context with it. So let's look at this. That we begin with Yud He Vav He directing or establishing the moving forward of the Gavar, okay, of this person that is walking toward the house, the head of the house. But then the next verse is that I have never seen the Zadakim abandoned. So to me, the walk of verses 23 and 24 is to make the person into the Zadakim. So these verses are about a person who makes a decision to walk with the Almighty will be then transformed into the person that the Almighty created them to be in the first place. Does that make sense?
Kind of reminds me of some rabbinical study about redemption and making teshuvah. When a man turns from the direction that he was walking, that is the beginning of teshuvah. It is not the fullness of it.
Mm-hmm.
But once he starts taking steps in the opposite direction, that's when Yah will embrace him and help him. In other words, the grace of Yah, the enabling power of Yah, comes when we're willing to start taking steps. So for me to make a statement, I'm not going to do a certain thing anymore, or I'm going to change this habit, I'm going to change this part of my life. I recognize that it's against the scripture, against Torah, and I'm turning. Wonderful. I've changed my mind. That's step one. Step two is to start taking steps in an opposite direction. That's where I encounter the helping hand of the Creator to assist me and empower me to make those steps further down that path. I got to be willing to try. You know, we quote the verse, well, the battle belongs to Yah.
Mhm.
The battle's not mine, the battle is his. That's what David said. But he still had to pick up a stone and put it in a sling and run toward his adversary. It's not like Yah sent an angel down to do all the fighting for him. David had to try.
Mhm.
Oh, Yah, deliver me. Break this thing off of me. Change my mind, change my habits, change my doings, change my whatever. Or, I'm sorry, forgive me, amen. That's not a prayer of deliverance. A prayer of deliverance says, I admit that I've sinned. Father, I confess that this is a sin according to your word. It plagues me. I turn from it. Give me the power to walk in the opposite direction. Free these chains from me and enable my hands to do what is right and righteous, not unrighteous. And then start walking toward him, seeking him instead of giving yourself opportunity for whatever it is that you're dealing with. So this,
The word teshuvah.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that
So
a man's got to be willing to fight. And I say man generically, anyone. You got to be willing to fight, even if what you're fighting is yourself. I'm fighting, I've heard people say, I got my own inner demons. Well, why are you carrying them around? Get rid of those things. As long as I got a demon to blame for my miscarriage of righteousness, I'm not guilty. Well, hello. That's not the way Yah sees that.
my Dr. Zakina said, when did my luggage become my baggage? Yeah. So what we have is progression in these verses, Barry, of an ish, a man that makes a decision to, and we could actually look at it. I challenge people. You can go to Blue Letter Bible. It's very simple. This is not a complicated process that you have to know Hebrew to get all of this. But just look the verses up and click on it and look at the letters. And I mean, anybody should have somewhere. I have in the back of my Bible taped on the back cover. I have the Aleph Beit with all of the with the very simple structure of the letters. But here's an interesting point, Barry, that if we took the Gimel and if we translated the Gimel into an English way of looking at the Gimel would actually be turned the other way. Because in English, we read from right to left instead of left to right. So the Gimel would actually be walking away from the house. Instead of in Hebrew, the Gimel, the man is walking toward the house. So in there is the essence of Teshuvah, which is an ish, a man needs to turn around from his natural thinking, needs to turn toward the house. But what I'm looking at is that the letter that he's walking toward the house, the bait is open, that way. I hope I'm probably pointing backwards here on the computer. But so the Gimel is walking toward the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So he is actually trying to overtake. He's trying to, he has to actively move toward the house, but understanding that entering the house is not going to be just an easy thing. The door is just not, wide open. He's going to have to overtake the house. So is this the essence of the violent? And I think maybe the word there is what trips us up. The determined, are we determined to walk toward the kingdom? Are we determined to enter into the kingdom principles? Are we determined to lay hold of the covenant, or just kind of sitting back going, well, if it happens, it happens?
We are in a season, Mike, where we cannot afford to be passive. There is a difference between being rebellious and arrogantly stubborn, which you mentioned the
Watch out.
mask thing a while ago, and I have major, major issues,
Oh, yeah.
and that's just me. What anyone else does and how anyone else responds, that's up to them.
Yeah.
But when I'm dealing with the mask, I'm thinking forced compliance more than health safety. That's the way my head works.
Yeah.
I have to be
don't
careful with my attitude.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have to be careful that I'm not digging my heels in the ground out of stubbornness, but rather how can I put this? If I cannot see this as a battle that is about righteousness and freedom and liberty for God's people, then it's just me being rebellious. The American Revolution, it can be argued by new neo historians as we have them today about the right or wrong of that cause.
Mhm.
We weren't living in that day, but we had an unjust system that was raised up where someone had never touched our soil was determining our lives and making life miserable for us and exerting more and more unfounded control to where finally people said, we've had enough.
Yep.
We have a cause that's worth defending even to the shedding of blood. And they did that. What the result of that was years of carnage and pain and suffering and endurance. And they had to have been just worn out till Yah intervened and we were liberated.
Mm-hmm.
You got to fight the fight in order to win the war. You can't just say, well, it's one battle and it's over. No, this is war. What we're seeing is systems of the anti-Mashiach creeping in, and now the floodgates have opened. And the righteous have not been prepared for this battle or for the war. We've been indulgent. We've been passive. We have set back because we thought we had a political environment that was to our favor. And for 4 years, we've just sat back and let someone else do all the nitty-gritty fighting in Congress and so forth, and thinking that it's not really our fight. We were misled. Now we have the results of passivity. If you want a continuance of opportunity, now let's be clear, America is never going to be the same as it was when you and I were kids, Mike. That freedom and nostalgic, sentimental day, that's gone. But to fight for the opportunity to be able to speak without being censored. This is not about who's in political office as much as it is. You and I need the right to speak what we're doing right now without being censored or blocked or cut off the air. That is the mindset that is about to prevail. What is about to prevail is a horrendous agenda against our children and grandchildren. You just saw your grandkids. I see mine. I don't want a drag queen in the library reading to my children or my grandchildren. Okay, this is, and you see where I'm going with this. There is an agenda. It is a perverted, anti-scriptural agenda that's not just going to be tolerated; it's going to be enforced and pushed. And we can sit back and say, "Well, you know, the Lord's will be done." The Father's will is for a man or a woman to stand their ground for the cause of righteousness. If I'm going to suffer, if I'm going to have to endure, if I'm going to have to fight, let it be for the truth and for the light of Yeshua and for righteousness. And right now, that's the real battle. It's been broadcast as a political battle. It's not political first. That's only a symptom. This war is something much, much deeper.
Yeah, what we're seeing happen in the natural around us is a product of the spiritual.
Oh,
And
yes.
without understanding the spiritual battle, there's no way to ever win a natural battle. This thing about masks and and being told to stay in your house and the 6 feet apart and all of those things, the argument goes to, well, the CDC said, or this person said, or the other person, or medical. That's not the argument for me. The argument for me is this: this is a spiritual battle, and I don't do sheeple well. I just don't. Okay, because I understand that if I'm not, and I'm not, there's a difference between the word rebel and renegade. I prefer the word renegade because a rebel just kind of just does things just because. For me, in my vernacular, my definitions, a renegade is someone that is not willing to just conform for no reason. Okay, if somebody can give me clear proof that something works, I'm all for it. But when you're hypocritical about where you stand, this is what kept me for almost 15 years of my life. This is what kept me away from a real relationship with the Almighty. Is I saw hypocrisy.
Mm.
Okay, I don't follow hypocrites at all, and I don't follow sheep at all. But if you can give me a clear-cut definition, and that's what I love about this word, this verse gives me some. It's fighting for the right thing. And if I can find a cause that is the right cause to fight for, then there's nothing there's nothing greater in life than fighting for the right thing. But what I see today is people fighting for the wrong thing. I said it last week about Facebook. I'm not getting off of Facebook. I don't like Facebook, never liked Facebook. But I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving because what's doing me next? You can go to Parlor or MeWe or whatever it is. What are you going to do when that falls apart? Where are you going to run to then? I'm standing my ground. And when I post something, I pray that the Father works past the algorithms to the people that need to hear a message. Are we just going to walk away from everything just to, here's the thing. Well, I can go over to this other social media platform to where everybody's like me. And what influence are you going to have?
Right. I want to clarify something other as well before we leave today. I'm aware that many in our audience will say, but maybe you haven't had family or friends or acquaintances that have died because of the coronavirus and COVID-19. I don't know anyone Personally, I have my brother-in-law's father died from complications that developed from COVID.
Hmm.
When he died, the COVID was no longer in his body. Uh, it certainly was a contributing factor. I understand that there are people that have lost this battle, and it's grievous. There is more going on, and I'm not trying to find a conspiracy theory or anything. I'm not going down that trail, but there is more about the current medical scare and concern than what you will find on TV. If you will pray over this and let the Father begin to reveal some things to you, I think you will realize that what's being said on the nightly newscast and public media, they're presenting one small thing about it. Um, so I don't want to come across as being cold and indifferent and uncaring for those that have suffered and hurt because of the sickness. I realize there is a sickness. There's some say it doesn't even exist. Never said that. It's there, but there's a reason that it's there. And I would encourage you. Um, Mike and I, either one, can help you with this if you're interested to contact us. But be good to your body. Sleep well as you can. Drink plenty of water. Get outside and stand in the sun. Fortify your immune system. Build up your health. If you will take care of and keep this body clean, inside and outside, you have a great ability to overcome anything that sickness wise will come at you, and not just COVID, other things. The book of Revelation talks about pestilences and plagues that come. It didn't say what the sources were. So righteousness is a defense. Also, good health is a defense. You can't mistreat your body, eat nasty food, and have bad health habits and then expect that, yeah, it's just going to keep you from ever getting sick. It doesn't work that way.
Well, that's what this verse continues to say. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his descendants begging for bread. What are we doing, Barry? When we become the person that begins with an ish, we start running toward the house, the head of the house, and he makes us into the Zadik. Then that can be transferred. That can go through generations to come. The greatest gift that we can give to another generation, a rising generation, as I call them, the greatest gift we can give to our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, is a righteous life today.
Amen.
But and righteousness is sometimes righteousness is on your fork. As you said, don't think you can just kind of play with the with this creation. Well, I'll just pray about it. I'll go out and have a couple of milkshakes and all this kind of stuff, and nothing against milkshakes. But don't think you can just kind of throw everything at your body and expect that somehow God's just going to zap you into health. No, He's expecting us to take care of ourselves, and that's also spiritually. But this is not the issue. Is not masks. It's not COVID. This is about the essence of all of this that's happening around us today. Barry, comes down to this thing. It's about control. I don't do sheeple well. I just don't. It's against my personality. Are there times that I put on a mask when I was on the plane? Yes. But then they told me that I could take it off as long as I was actively drinking water. And I figured as long as the glass was on the little tray there, I was active. Call it what you want. Somebody may get angry because, but listen, I believe that I'm taking care of myself to a level, and I am trusting the Father at a level. What are you going to do when other pestilences come? You know, I mean, if we can't trust Him for this one, and I'm not talking about walking in stupidity. There's a very fine line between faith and stupidity. I know. I've meandered back and forth on that one a few times in life. But I know this: if I can't trust Him for what is happening today, how can I trust Him with what is going to happen tomorrow? If He can't supply bread today, then how can I trust Him to supply bread tomorrow? If I can't trust Him that He can supply bread when the store is open, then how am I going to trust Him that He can supply bread when the store is closed? Just a thought.
Just a thought. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully, something said is encouraging to you, life building to you. If so, we'd love to hear about it. You can reach us by leaving a comment on this channel. Any of the comments, I'll forward those over to Mike. So we appreciate you not only watching, but getting involved in the conversation. We anticipate probably another one next week. Not real sure yet on our schedules for Thanksgiving week. For those that observe Thanksgiving, I pray it will be an enjoyable, festive time for you. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Shalom, Mike.
Take care, Barry.